Yeah.
Yes. So next we have Lavanya. Lavanya uh, Xigzem Zer is a writer, actor, and editor who once had a penchant for irreverent bios. Their writing examines the intersections of entertainment, culture, politics, gender, and sexuality, mental health, and society. So let's welcome Lavanya. Hi, Lavanya. I think
Oh,
you'll have to unmute yourself.
yeah, I think, yeah, can everyone hear me now?
Yes, yes, we can hear you.
Hi, hi. Um, okay, so to start with, I wanted to go back to something that Sana said that the 99% woman thing that, good God, it made me so upset um, because it's it's so exclusionary and it basically kind of assigns this thing that, oh, you know what, trans women are not real women, especially among feminist activists who are cisgender women. um, there's a term for them. It's called trans exclusionary radical feminists. They're called TERF. It's a long term, so people have just kind of shortened it and made it, and now the term is TERF. So there are a lot of TERF activists um, in the feminist space because they feel like, oh, because these people were not raised as women, they have not gone through the same struggle. The thing is that okay, so I'm gonna be a little muddled with my thoughts because this is a very last minute thing, and I have like a lot all over the place in my head. Um, but yeah, but going back to what Sana said about how they're not considered women because they can't get pregnant. To start with, there are a lot of gender women who can't get pregnant. That's one. Two, it's a very narrow thing to say that it's only women who can be pregnant, whether they are cisgender or trans. There are a lot of trans men who do not opt for SRS because they want to have children. There are a lot of people, and I'm going to get to this point about people in like a second. But there are people who can get who want to be pregnant and who can get pregnant, and there needs to be a lot of inclusivity in language when it comes to talking about reproductive rights in this country, which I think is massively flawed. Um, Now, going to the people thing, the thing about being trans, and like, for instance, because I am non-binary, it's a challenge to explain to people that I'm not a man or a woman. I'm a person. I may have been assigned female at birth, but I don't identify with either being female. I am a person, and I will always be that way. But the heteronormative understanding of trans, the binary normative understanding of the definition of trans is to say that, oh, okay, you were born with a certain set of genitalia. So being trans means you're going to transition to the other the thing. First of all, the other aspect of it we need to completely remove. You have to understand the like what the point that I think Vishala made at the beginning from what you read um, about how sex and gender are two very different things. Um, the problem is that we see it in such binary terms, whereas there are 64 non-binary genders. 64. Like I don't know all of them myself. I identify as gender fluid in among these 64 non-binary genders. But to me, the biggest concern around being trans, and especially what Sana said about how there is so much of there's so much discrimination within the trans community about how you need to be a certain way to be considered trans. That's not how it's supposed to be. First of all, being a community that is already marginalized, we need to there for each other and support each other, especially in a heteronormative world, in a cis heteronormative world, where, you know, it's only white men and Savarna men, and to a certain extent cisgender Savarna women who are dominating all the narratives out there. But we have Dalit individuals who are queer, Dalit individuals who are non-binary. We have Muslim people who are queer and non-binary, and all the narratives are getting erased because of this insistence to, kind of center everything around the binaries, center everything around being cisgender, center everything around being heterosexual. Um, and like my frustration is essentially with that, because I like, even in my day to day, like I I'm I'm somewhat of a straight passing trans person. Like, as in when people see me, like they already decide in their head, oh right, this person has breasts, okay, so this is a woman. Um, but there are times when I'm walking on the street and people try, like when they look at me, people try to figure out what I am, and then their eyes will immediately drop to my chest. And this is just so problematic and so upsetting for so many reasons, because you just do, you feel so invalidated every single day, like, oh my god, I'm not a woman or a man, but, and does that effectively mean that I don't exist? So I feel like being trans in India, you need to have these conversations of, you don't have to identify as a man or a woman, in, in the trans narrative. You can identify as a person. You can still want to have a vagina and, a larger chest, and and still not identify as a woman. You can still want to have top surgery and and take testosterone injections and still not identify as a man. You can still be a person. The operative word here being person. I think this is something that people really, really need to remember, that there are so many trans people who just want to be identified as people rather than either just men or women. Um, Now, there's another thing that I wanted to bring up in this discussion about especially to the question of what does feminism mean to me. And the one thing I've realized in the last few months, especially with the way India has been, I think this is something that I'm a little surprised that no one brought it up, but I'm also also a little secretly glad, because I get to bring it up. The last few months in India have been a shit show, to put it very mildly. We've had Article 370 being scrapped. We've had the Trans Act, which is utterly horrible, and it does not the invalidates the trans community completely, and their struggles completely. We've had the JNU fee hike. We've had CAA, the biggest thing that has happened. And CAA, the only reason that the CAA and RC debate has sort of been like, there's been a timeout called on it of because of the pandemic, the current pandemic. And now, of course, if you are looking at the, if people are active on social media over here, or looking at news and stuff like that, there is a narrative being created around Muslim people being the cause of the virus. So I feel like being queer and being trans in this country is more than that. It needs to go beyond being queer and trans, especially in pride parades and things like that. We need to be, because of the intersectionality of feminism. Intersectionality includes talking, voicing the struggles of, like, giving minority individuals a space to voice their struggles, and to kind of realize that it's not just about being queer and trans in this country, it's about being a minority. Being a minority in India is death at the moment. It's a struggle. It is difficult. You are constantly vilified and victimized by the current government, and people don't talk about it enough. And especially with what happened in Mumbai with Queer Azadi, and I don't know if people know about this, but um, back in, I think this is February, I want to say, yeah, February, around end of Jan, February 1st, Mumbai's Queer Pride Parade happens around Jan, Feb, March, in that particular time period. this time what happened was is that because the CA protest happening, the cops didn't give them permission to actually host the pride parade and not didn't give them permission to close off the roads and stuff. So um, the so members of the queer community said, okay, you know what? Rather than it being a march, we're going to do a sit-in protest. And this happened, and because the NRC is going on, and because there are a lot of people who are going to get affected, especially the trans community is going to get like apart from Muslims, of course, a lot of trans people are going to get affected by the CA NRC because a lot of them don't have papers or birth certificates to prove their identity because they've transitioned, and uh, and so these people, and so there are a lot of people who went in with CA NRC protests, like as in slogans and boards and things like that. And there are people who made speeches, if I'm not mistaken. And queer and so the Mumbai police decided that okay, we're going to round up a few of these people and arrest them. And the organization organized the that organized the Pride Parade helped the police in identifying these people and getting them arrested and getting them detained. One of them was a trans person named Chris, who was dead named by the media. Dead named means if there's a trans person who has taken on a new name, who's adopted a new name, but is being referred to by their old name, it's called dead named. And Chris was misgendered and dead named in the media, and it was a very horrible time for them, and it was very concise proof of the fact that there are clear factions in the queer community in India. One that is with the ruling government at the moment, and one that wants to see the queer government out of power. And the this queer male movement in Bombay is has been so ignorant of of trans rights and of the trans community and of our struggles. And it's just been so disheartening to see this over the last few months. And for me, I think the discussion of feminism needs to include this all the time because we live in a country which is so politically, word I'm looking for, politically turbulent, and so we need to be talking about these things constantly. We cannot forget the fact that we've we've lived in a nation that has vilified minorities constantly. I think that's about it. I can go on and on about like Shalok also said I can go on and on about this stuff, but I think I'm gonna end it here.
Thank you, Lavanya. A round of applause for Lavanya. Yes, politically turbulent, I think very aptly said. And I sense a lot of, frustration about the, gendering or the othering that happens in our country. And also some kind of sadness that, there's so much conflict within the communities itself. And that a government or a government that should protect the rights or protect and make things accessible for the community is somewhere not identifying that itself. I love the way you said that I'm a person, and I think that choice to be able to make the choice to not be the other, not be the minority, not to have the struggle, very valid. And thanks a lot for sharing your thoughts. Thank you so much.